Hello to everybody out there. I am Rabbi Pinchas Landis of Partners in Torah of Cleveland, and I am here with the one, the only, the cohort, Rabbi Gamliel Nassan Halevi Spero of Yeshivas Ahavas HaTorah of Cleveland, which we're now going to change to Yeshivas Zumas HaTorah of no, that doesn't sound good. Anyhow, but he has another accolade now we can add to him because he is going to be one of the panelists and a very elite fireside chat that's taking place tonight. It's a very, very exciting thing. And in fact, there's a little advertisement we have here for it that we want to share with you because
me
it's...
main panelists are Rafi Adler and myself.
They should have put Rafi on it. That would have been fun. Can you see it on the screen there?
I don't see the smoke coming out.
Oh, no, I'm hitting play. I did play. I'm hitting play. Someone say, there you go. See it? Wait, it went on. It's going to go again. One second.
This end of Chuck E. Cheese. I actually drove near. I went to Costco today. I saw it was near Chuck E. Cheese. I took a...
That was probably very rough for you. You see the smoke comes out?
Yeah, I see.
Okay. So anyways, that's Rabbi Spero and his...
I look fatter than I do.
Whoa! Yeah, so you can tune into that fireside chat tonight. By the way, I thought when I first saw the ad, I was trying on many levels to figure out what it was, but one of the things I was saying is they should have had the Rabbis Podcast do this fireside chat, and then I figured they must look at us like Shimon and Levi, just like Yosef Hatzadik wanted to split Shimon and Levi because like Shimon and Levi together can cause a lot of trouble. Maybe that was what they were thinking, that they couldn't possibly have both of us because just leads to trouble. So anyhow, Rabbi Spero, how you doing? What's going on in the world? What's going on?
Good. I actually thought fireside.
You faded out there a little bit. It's what? No, you're fading a little bit on my side, but hopefully the recording will be fine. Yeah, it started fading. We were doing great until we started the recording, and it was fading a little bit. Right. Hopefully on the recording it'll be fine. But sorry, you were saying fireside chat?
I thought fireside chat was actually a setting on Zoom, what we could actually do, but apparently it's not. But yeah, we'll see about it tonight. I don't have many details about it, but me and my co-panelist Rafi Adler are gonna. She wants me to give a shout out to Justin Amash. I'm not even sure. He's the guy running. It's whatever. As Rafi Adler says, I do. I don't. She is whatever Rafi Adler
She's the
says.
Omnipresent. I don't even know who that person is. Am I supposed to know who that is? Justin who? Am I supposed to know who that person is?
Either. I looked it up on Google. He's running for president as a Republican. But it's amazing.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah. No, it's a libertarian. Libertarian. I saw that. Yeah.
So, in any case, I vote for the Communist Party, so it's not so relevant for me. But I am. It's interesting that you see the way politics have been totally pushed to the side. That people are not interested, which I think is a good thing. I think right now there's so many other things happening, so many bigger things that we're supposed to be worried about. Today, Rav Shalom Kamenetsky, I was talking to him on the phone, and he sent me over. He was mentioning we were discussing certain ideas. He sent me over. He has 70 pages written about the Corona situation, different things. There's some of them we've talked about. His was the first schmooze I saw. I thought was the best schmooze in the beginning that came out. Was the idea of Corona is the idea of Levad, and then he has a lot of other interesting things to say, which I think are important. So I was talking to him today. I saw an interesting steer. Really, I'm trying to wrap my head around is to what degree, as we know in Cleveland, they've just started minyanim. Every day mincha ma'ariv we have minyanim, and I actually don't go to my block minyan. I go to the dorm in yeshiva, and I dive outside in the behind the dormitory every day. We have a minyan for mincha ma'ariv. So it's an interesting question: to what degree do Inyani Ruchnius and Inyani Pikuach Nefesh, how they go together with each other? The diving with a minyan, is it dangerous? It's one thing I've noted. We all know about this is such a tremendous lack of clarity. Every doctor says something different. Everyone is different. I've been injecting myself with hydrochloroquine every day and chlorine in general, and I've been drinking directly from the fish tank, and it hasn't been working. And so it's a lot of different opinions what we're supposed to do. But there's two diverse, mamish different Gemaras. There's a Gemara in Avodah Zarah that it says that Rabbi Chida ben Tradian was teaching Torah in public. And Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma, who I'm not sure if he was Chida ben Tradian's Rabbi, but he definitely was someone Rabbi Chida ben Tradian deferred to, gave him Musar for why are you teaching Torah in public in these times when the Romans are on top of us, the Romans are subjugating us, meaning he wasn't criticizing for learning Torah, but for teaching it in a public way. And he even predicted his end, his demise, which was the demise of Rabbi Tradian, and of course he would burned publicly by the Romans. That's what he said, a famous line, right? Agvil Nisraf, the Isis Parchim Ba'avir, that the cloth is burned, but the letters fly up to Shemayim. That's the Gemara there. So the implication of that Gemara is that Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma holds that it's better to not put your life on the line for teaching Torah in public. However, if you look at the Gemara in Brachas, there the Gemara with Rabbi Kiva and Papas ben Yehuda, the implication of the Gemara is that Rabbi Kiva was right, and he was caught for teaching Torah publicly, and it was worth it, and it was the right thing. So in other words, it's a machlekes between Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma and Rabbi Chida ben Tradian and Rabbi Kiva on different sides, which is fine. There's many machlekes throughout Shas, both in Hashkafa and Halacha, but just interesting that it's hard to find a specific clarity of what we're supposed to do. I mean, I was looking also in the Gemaras in Yuma and the Shulchan Aruch, how we paskin, what to do if different doctors say different things. We go by Rabbi. Very interesting sugya. It's really a difficult situation. But I spoke to my Rabbi Shalom. He told me, he said just as long enough when we daven in yeshiva, everyone's young, except for me. So the Bachram daven in one spot.
You're just young at heart.
I'm young at heart, exactly, and I'm immature. But apparently, one of the studies they've done with COVID-19 is immaturity and physical years do not have nothing to do with each other. So even though I'm immature, it doesn't mean that on a physical, I'm still 47. So I feel like when I was a kid, like I had 47, I was like, you're probably going to die soon. You're so old. I stand all the way on the side and I wear a bandana, which has been a big hit with the Bachram that I wear a bandana. So, but I wear it everywhere. I go to Costco today. I love it. I was the only guy in Costco wearing a bandana. Everyone else is wearing little masks. And then I'm ready to rob a bank at any moment. So it's great. Yes. Anyway, a lot of confusion.
Right, because you've already robbed all the Jewish stores.
Exactly. The main thing is just to work on bitachon. Something I've started doing. I don't know if I've, my whole life I feel like it's one long Zoom podcast. So I don't know if I've said it before or not. If I did, please forgive me. But one of the things I've been kabbalah on myself, whenever I take medication, aspirin, or at least a couple times a day, I try to say the Hiratzon brought down in the Gemara and then the Brachas. We say Hiratzon at the right Chaylim. This Asik Zeli Refuah. This Asik should work for me as Refuah. I think it's coming to remind us that real refuah comes from Hashem. That's why it's interesting. The Gemara in Brachas and the Gemara in Bava Kama, it's really, they have to find a reason why it's mutter to go to a doctor, for Rappa Yerape. In other words, the implication of those two Gemaras are that, where is that?
That's my backyard. That's my driveway. That's my backyard, the back of my driveway.
The minion is by you?
That's our. Yeah, it ended up being by us because I have this big driveway, and it kind of similar to you. I asked my Rabbi Yossi Berger, like how to proceed with this, and he basically said if with your group you're comfortable, everybody's following the rules, then you should daven with the minyan. So at that point I volunteered to be our block captain, and Rabbi Spitz said, hey, your driveway's perfect for it. So there we are. So.
You put that picture back on for 1 second?
Sure.
Can you put the picture back on for 1 second?
Yep. Coming back up. Hold on 1 second. Hold on.
So I'll just finish the thought. So basically, but we see.
Yeah, finish your thought. I'm sorry. I didn't interrupt the thought with the picture.
That it's a chiddush that a person can go to the doctor. It's not so simple. Meaning it actually requires a limud that a person is able to go to a doctor. I thought that was really fascinating and interesting. That it's just something to think about. Meaning to us, it's so obvious, to go to the doctor. the most obvious thing in the world, a person's allowed to go to the doctor. But the truth is, it's really not so obvious, right? That a person would be allowed to go to a doctor when he needs to.
So this is why you needed it up, because you needed to make doodles on the picture.
Yeah, look, you know what the coolest thing is? This
What's
is
that?
amazing. I figured this out. You can erase it. I'm crazy about it.
Rabbi Spero, you have too much fun with Zoom. I gotta tell you. I
I
gotta
was
tell you,
learning with
much.
a brother. We were learning on Zoom, and we were up to a sugya which had some cheshbonos with numbers. So it was so cool. I was so excited. I actually put on we were learning. I put on a sheet like that, and I was writing out the cheshbon on it, and then he was adding to it. I thought it was mamish really interesting that you could do that. Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. It's I saw Google now. I'm getting all these ads. Google's now trying to do Google Meet, and it's free and it's part of your email. But it's interesting.
Yeah, we used to always before all this, we used Google Meet at Partners in Torah, and it had so many things that I just weren't smooth about it, that when Zoom became the thing, I said Zoom is just so much easier. Like people really? Inevitably always had a hard time logging on to Google Meet, and no one ever has a hard time logging on to Zoom.
But it's interesting. I also one of the other brokers was also telling me Google Meet, and the guy was saying that Facebook has. At this point, I know it sounds. I feel a loyalty to Zoom. We have had since whatever day it was, a few days after Purim, when yeshiva closed. Our last day of yeshiva in person was Sunday after Purim. So, in other words, starting Monday, which was, I think, Yud Tes Adar, when we started learning on Zoom, we, Baruch Hashem, have Zoomed, except with the exception of Shabbos and Yom Tov itself, every day, including Chol Hamoed, most days, 2 times a day, Zooming. I feel like cars are type to Zoom. So even obviously it's $15 a month. It's very cheap. I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to leave Zoom. I just feel like our cars are type to them, so I'm sticking with them.
Yeah, I hear.
And
as I told you, Rabbi Spero.
So I checked with MySpace.
We got a lag here today. I feel bad. I'm sorry. I hope the recording comes out okay, at least. But as I told you many times before, you weren't being Jewish enough because at Partners in Torah, we emailed Zoom that we were a educational organization. So we got the they made the basic account the equivalent of the upgraded account for during this time period for free. So we get the unlimited time and 100 participants and all that. We get for free because they know we're an educational institution. So you could do that and save $15, Rabbi Spero. Mom and hektish.
It's something to think about, but I don't know. I feel like ours are tied to them. It's working very good for us.
No,
like in the beginning, we were doing
great.
AOL Instant Messenger. We were learning on AOL Instant Messenger. I would say I would write over my shir, and then the guys would get it and respond. And it was really didn't make any sense, so we stopped doing that right in the beginning.
Oh, Rabbi Spero, you and your antiquated lifestyle. It's always a riot.
But something. Does the Commodore 64? The Commodore 64.
Mm-hmm. Halavai, if we only imagine today, if you really had like a mint condition Commodore 64 in the box, you know how much that thing must be worth to collectors nowadays? And in fact, I should look on eBay and see what a Commodore 64 goes for. But yeah,
people have old Ataris, old Intellivision, any of these old. If you have like a working Pong, that first video thing, those things are worth like thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, they're antique.
Right. That's because look, there's a market for everything. I'll tell you an interesting thing. Along these lines, there's a big market. I was actually shocked when I found out this was a market, but a big market for sneakers. In other words, like if you have a pair of the original Michael Air Jordans, those are like you remember that they were black and red and white and all that, yeah. So if you had if you had a pair of those,
your mom is breaking up on me right now.
Yeah, you were also
terribly.
breaking up on me.
I wonder why that is.
On my end, everything else is fine. Everything else on my internet right now is totally fine. What type of internet package do you have? We had to upgrade ours because of all the things going on in the house right now. We upgrade to 1 gig. It could be.
We have AT&T.
AT&T. Right, so we also have AT&T. Do you have the 1 gig package, or you don't know? You don't know. Got it. No, it's good because you're on, your kids are on. That was the issue we were having, so we had to upgrade to a different package. But okay, hopefully we'll get a decent recording out of this. We should really keep a backup audio recording. But anyhow, so I wanted just along those lines of the minyanim. I had a real shickle, I had to have an existential discussion with myself as to when the letter went out from the Vad about the minyanim. So initially, my initial response, I was very excited that, minyanim were going to be back. I could daven with a minyan again. And then I found out Yedidenu, Rafael Davidovich was not a fan of this, and so much so that he spoke out publicly about it. It's one thing to disagree with the rest of the Vad. It's another thing to actually vocalize that you disagree, which for Rafi to do that speaks volumes, or for Rabbi Davidovich to do that, it speaks volumes. So it left me and also in like a quandary, like, what am I going to do? WWPLD. By the way, I'm making those bracelets, so I'm going to get them out to the world. I think they're going to be a big fad, by the way. WWPLD. So I called my Rabbi Yossi Berger and spoke out with him, and it was interesting because he said that the this is basically the debate that's going on between, we'll call it the OU camp and the Aguda camp. The OU camp is lock, stock, and barrel following Dr. Fauci, who says that the Jewish community is considered a high risk community because of our warm social interactions with each other. So we need to have a 2-week delay on top of what everyone else is doing. So if Ohio's just starting to open up in a slight way, we need to add 2 weeks to that. That's kind of like the OU position. And the Aguda is saying essentially what we're doing to start, outdoor minyanim, no more than 10 to 12 people, spaced out, masks, all that good stuff. So I called Rabbi Berger to speak to him about it, and he said, we went through a number of the cheshbonos, a number of the things that are being taken into account, and he said an interesting thing that he said one of the areas of concern is that at this point, when we're seeing that states are starting to open up, that if the local vadim don't give some guidelines for opening up minyanim, people are just going to do it on their own, and they're not going to follow any guidelines. And that is much more of a risk than taking baby steps. So that's much more risky. So I had, and I subsequently had a conversation back and forth with a physician in town who was not happy that minyanim were opening up in any way, shape, or form. And I spoke this point out with him. It was a very interesting discussion we had, because he said to me, he said, I think that's hypocritical. He said, our community is always saying that Das Torah is paramount, and Das Torah supersedes everything, and Das Torah. And now if the rabbis would say we can't have minyanim, people aren't going to follow Das Torah. And I said to him, how long have you been Jewish? I said, Klal Yisrael has a national trait. It's called Kshei Oref. And we've talked about this numerous times on the podcast, and I don't think it can be addressed enough, because we have to understand that as Yidden, as Klal Yisrael, Kshei Oref is both a bracha and a klala. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time. It's a blessing in that we're still here because of our Kshei Oref, because of our stiff-neckedness. But on the flip side, there's times when Kshei Oref comes out in a negative way. And I explained to him that in whatever direction a person's passions go, that's where the Kshei Oref is going to come out. So if you have a community that is naturally inclined towards Kedusha, in other words, their trajectory, their flow is in towards holy matters, then it's going to be in holy matters when you're going to see the Kshei Oref come out. And if you have a community that's going in the other direction and not so holy matters, there you'll see Kshei Oref come out and being lenient in sneas and mixed swimming and these types of things. Right? Because Klal Yisrael has the problem of Kshei Oref, and it's always going to come out in whatever direction you're heading. So I said to him, take a look at the Rambam in the beginning of Hilchos Shoftim in the Yad HaChazaka and Mishnah Torah. So over there, the Rambam explained how a gezerah became a dirabana. In other words, how did a rule become a law, if you want to say in English, right? How did a safeguard end up being going from being just a safeguard to actually being halacha dirabanan, to being a mitzvah dirabanan? So the Rambam says over there is that you had batei dinim from the Sanhedrin on down, you had the whole system, that the batei dinim would make gezeros. They would make these enactments, these protective enactments. And either the protective enactments would be accepted by the people or they would not be accepted by the people. And sometimes they would be kicked up to be appealed, so to speak, to the higher courts. The whole appeal system we have in America comes straight out of the Sanhedrin system, straight out of Sefer Shoftim of the Rambam. It's right there. That's what, I don't know if that's where I got it from, but it's the same system. But he says, bottom line is, you had gezeras that were accepted and gezeras that weren't accepted. The ones that were accepted become law, become a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, and the ones that weren't fluttered away. And I said, do you understand what that means? It means in a time period where we still had a Sanhedrin, and not only Sanhedrin, but the whole system of judges, the whole Sanhedrin system, at that time, people also didn't listen to the rabbis all the time, right? You had the courts making gezeras, and people wouldn't listen. I said, how do you understand that? Isn't that hypocritical? I said, that's kshei oref. That's the Jewish people. That's who we are. So our local VOD, I think, is being very, very sensitive to that and saying, look, if we don't do anything, Chalila, people could end up dying because people are going to do their own thing. They're not going to be careful. You see what happened in Meron on Lag BaOmer. You see what happened in Williamsburg on Lag BaOmer, and people act without guidance and without following Gedarim. And Rahman al-Islam, people are going to get sick from that. And Chas v'Shalom, people could die. 5% of people, unfortunately, get corona, die. So on the flip side, we're doing it this way. We're hoping with Chaverim monitoring. Chaverim, they've showed up at our minyan before to double check to make sure we're doing it right. There was actually something we wanted to add on that Chaverim told us not to. They're doing a very good job of monitoring. And okay, now could it be that I don't know how many minyanim there are in town, but could it be that there are some that are not following the rules and that Chas v'Shalom people could get sick and Chas v'Shalom could be. But I think that the leadership of our community that was the cheshbon of on one hand, people could, God forbid, get sick. On the other hand, people could, God forbid, get sick. So I don't want to say it nullified itself, but almost to a certain extent it nullified itself that they had to make a decision with that almost not being a factor. And there was a thought. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
No, I was just going to say that I spoke to Shalom about it also because I'm with the yeshiva as a minyan, and it's my responsibility. So I felt like a big weight on my shoulders about it. And my Shalom said to me that you also have to take into account, after all the medical things, you also have to take a person's the mental aspect of
right. That does it. Yeah.
And he also felt it. And I would tell you, it's interesting. You look. Yeah, we both talked about this before. I'm learning at Night Seder with Isla. I'm learning Rus now, Megillus Rus. And
awesome.
One of the things I was thinking about ARPA. Right? ARPA is really one of the great mysteries of Megillus Rus, in my opinion. That she was the same level. She was married to Kilyan. Right? Apparently she's in the same level as Rus. So neither one stood out above the other one, at least until that point. And she initially started walking back with Nami, and then at the end she went back. And I think, as we know, we spoke about this the other years. Every name in Rus, almost every name is not a real name, right? Eli Melech, it says, the Chazal tell us that because he said, Eli Malchus, I'm going to be the next Melech. That's why he was there, Mayav, to bring Mayav into Klal Yisrael. And Bayaz's real name is Ivtzon, and the names Machlon and Kilyan, and many Mefarshim say, of course, that wasn't a real name. Machlon means sickness, Kilyan means destruction. There wasn't there. Pliny Amoni was not his real name. Rus and Arpo, Rus for sure was not a real name. She was a Moabite princess. It wasn't a real name. So of all the names, so Arpa, what does Arpa mean? Milashon Oiref, someone who's stubborn. So even though Klal Yisrael were an Am Kshe Oiref, we're a nation who is stubborn. But Arpa was the other extreme. She was a stubborn person, meaning she didn't have anything holding her there, mitigating her stubbornness, and therefore we see, and that's the tragic end. Arpa is one of the most tragic parts of Megillus Rus. If you look at the Gemara in Saita and in Medrash Rabbah, that very same night, right, she did unspeakably immoral acts.
Right.
And it says that it was, I don't know, nace is the right word, but Goliath, who's her grandson, was born from very bizarre things, right? Not from a typical male-female relationship, the Medrash tells us.
Right.
Not even necessarily from a human relationship, the way Goliath is born. And Chaim Shmulevitz asked the question, he goes, how does Arpa go from she's about to go back to Klal Yisrael and live in poverty to literally 5 hours later, she is the most degraded human possible? What's pshat? So he said, it's because she realized that she was so close, of her stubbornness, and she was so close, then she realized that she had missed the boat, literally missed the boat on what could have been greatness. She could have gone back to Eretz Yisrael, and she could have been with Rus, one of the greatest people in the history of Klal Yisrael. And in the end, she's mamash a footnote in history. That's all she is. Just a very tragic story. And I think that's bad stubbornness. But yeah, Klal Yisrael in general were good stubbornness, but with all good comes bad. You know, we live in a society where if you're anti-abortion in this society, you're ridiculed. You're obviously a Neanderthal. You're obviously a fool. You're an idiot. If you are anti-gay marriage, you're obviously a fool. You're an idiot. You're a horrible person. You're a Russia. So I think if you don't believe that we came from apes, if you believe that there is a Rabbi Shalom, all these things that you see society ridicules. I think it's very natural for us to feel very much like, oh, the doctor said, science said, who cares? I'm not saying it's the right attitude, but I definitely understand where it comes from. Idea of, well, machavek, we'll throw away anything said by a scientist because of so many of the values that we hold important to us, crucial to us, society mocks so badly. And therefore...
Yeah, no, so I had a conversation actually with I don't know if you know him. He's a fellow Philadelphian, Yerachmiel Garfield. You know Yerachmiel? So he's from Philadelphia originally, from Lower Merion.
Sure, of course
yeah.
I know him.
Yeah, so he's
a great guy.
Yeah, very close friend of mine. So he's the principal in Houston, Texas. He's the manal of the day school there, and he very close friend of mine. He was actually in Atlanta for a number of years. So we became we knew each other a little in yeshiva, but we became close in Atlanta because we would see each other when I would go home for visit my family. We became very close. And anyway, so we spoke this week, and we were speaking about this topic, the minyanim and opening up, and because my achrayus, I run an organization that it's almost, I don't want to say my job is easy, but it is easy because since we're sort of like we're like Rabbis Without Borders, if we can say that on the podcast still, but we all our educational programs. Hey, it's COVID-19. We get away with anything nowadays. So, but all of our educational programs are, we have our model is we come to you, model that we don't have our own building. We don't have our own physical location. All of our learning is on other people's space and other people's terms. So we just follow the places where we do our programs. Like the Federation isn't open yet, so we can't do our Federation program. And so it's, just completely following the lead over there. So that, in that sense, I have it kind of easy, but you're running a school, you're running a yeshiva, he's running a school. And we're just speaking out the chrayas and he's in Texas, he's in Houston, where I thought there's a lot of press how Texas is like the most liberal, and I mean, they're not liberal in anything else except for how they've been dealing with us. But he said not with the schools. He said the governor has been very strict with the schools from the beginning, and he hasn't poskin yet on camps. And they run a camp through their school, like our schools do here. And he said he's in this holding pattern where usually at this point, it's the end of the school year, towards the end of the school year. He's working on next school year. He's working on payroll. He's working on staff, who to hire, who to fire. So he can't do any of that. Like, he doesn't know, is he opening in September? Is he not opening in September? Is he same staff, not the same staff, payroll, funding? He said he's in this total state of flux. And he said not only that, but camp is supposed to start in a month, and I don't even know if I'm going to have camp. If I need to cancel camp, he said I can't make the call yet. He said, I know one thing. I have to follow. I have to do what the governor says. L'toiv l'ra, because let's say on my own, I would just say, okay, at this point we have to cancel camp. The parents would kill me, right? Because if I cancel camp and it ends up being allowed by the state, the parents will just kill me. So on the flip side, if I say we're going to have camp, then the state can end up canceling, and then we can't have camp. So he's just total holding pattern here. But we got to talk about this same issue we're talking about here about science and Torah and how we look at it. And and we are definitely. Anytime I talk about these things, I always have to give the hakdama that we are not creationists and we are not Scientologists. Both of those groups of people are total quacks, at least for myself, Rabbi Spero. I don't know about you. Maybe, I think Rabbi Spero in his spare time hangs out a little bit at the Church of Scientology. The total
those
quacks.
Guys, they're crazy.
They're nuts. And actually, I remember when I lived in Cincinnati. So in just over the border in Kentucky, I forget, maybe Covington, Kentucky, or whatever, I forget the name of the city. They made this museum called the Creation Museum, right? And it was made by some Christian group, the Creation Museum, some creationist group. And I said I would love to take a group there and give a tour to be able to show like how we differ from this, how the Jewish position is not what you're seeing in here. This is not how we, yes. Ein mikra yotzei pshuto, and in the words of Parshas Bereshis are we take very, very seriously, but what they're saying is not what we say. Let's just clarify that. So I wanted to take a group there, take a tour there, but I said I better go check it out first because I'm not going to just go there the first time and not know what I'm getting myself into. So I go down to this Creation Museum one day, and the place was a total 100% proselytization of Yushka. Like everything linked back to Yushka. So I was like, I ain't bringing anybody here. Like I thought it was just going to be like their approach as creationists in a museum, but it was like everything tied back to Yushka. So I was like, forget it. We ain't bringing a group here. But creationism is nuts. That's not the Jewish position on creation, on Sheshis Mei Bereshis, on understanding Sheshis Mei Bereshis.
It is pot. Why do we?
No, it's not a Rabbi Spero. It is nothing like we. Trust me, it is nothing.
Really?
I mean, I heard this line once from David Gottlieb, who by the way got married this week. I don't know if you heard, but David Gottlieb got married this week to Rebbe Tzipora Heller. I just can't imagine the brains in that relationship now, or the discussions they have around the dinner table. But Mazel Tov, they got married this past week. So David Gottlieb, he has a wonderful talk on evolution, and it was recorded 20 years ago, if not more. But he was one of the first people to put all his Torah content out on a website for free, and so you get all his shiurim on davidgottlieb.com. So there's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful shiur on evolution and really poking the holes in it. Not from a Jewish standpoint, just from a scientific standpoint, how the theory of evolution is a theory; it's not a law. And like all good theories, they should be studied. The theory of evolution should be studied. But the fact that this was accepted as the ki hem chayenu of the science world.
For sure. The reason why it was accepted was because it's the agenda of that there is no Rabbanan Shalom.
It gave an alternative. Exactly. It gave an alternative. That's what he says. He said, but I want to make it clear here. We're not creationists. Creationists are crazy, right? And because we look at Sheshis Mei Bereshis, and we look at I always say that the whole story of Bereshis is what is it, 32 psukim, 33 psukim? Like, you're not going to get that. Like anything in Torah Shebiksav, it's left with millions of holes. And not only that, but the Gemara itself tells us it's not something we should really ponder about too much. But you definitely, within Chazal, as I think Beryl Wine says it best. Beryl Wine says, science has yet to ever disprove the Torah. Right. Now, scientists might tell you they think that they've disproved the Torah, but they don't understand the Torah, right? The science is every scientific discovery, if anything, brings us closer to an understanding of the Torah, or science closer to the Torah, if anything. Like when they the Big Bang theory, like the Big Bang, everyone's like, oh, the Big Bang. What, the Big Bang? Big Bang. You know how you say Big Bang in Hebrew? Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'ha'aretz. Like it fit in, the whole Big Bang theory fits in beautifully with just even the Pshuta Shemukra. Not even, you don't have to bring in Chazal or the Meforshim. And if it's a beautiful, because what's the Big Bang theory say? Big Bang theory says at one point in history and scientific in the world history, the world had a beginning, it's expanding, and it will have an end. What do we say? The world had a beginning and it'll have an end, right? It fits in perfectly. So
But
and so forth.
but you do understand why there's such hesitancy in the part of our community to take seriously anything said by science, because you see this great agenda of trying to say that anti-Hashem.
Right. That's number one. But that's number one. That's a very serious thing that you're right. There's a tremendous bias and both science and academia, by the way. I spoke about this last night in the Back to the Past history class, how we got up to the end of Churban Bayesheni and Golos Bavel in the beginning of Golos Bavel / Madai and the beginning of Bayesheni. And I addressed, I didn't go into in depth because I find a lot of issues like this, people just don't know anything about it anymore, but I at least addressed the 150 missing years of Jewish history, or 166 or whatever it is, missing years of Jewish history. And the whole issue comes from the fact that in academia, there's a bias against anything Jewish. Right? That of course the Jewish sources are wrong and our sources are right, even though our sources are based on Zeus coming out of the water and whipping it with his fiery whips, and somehow that's more authoritative than the Rambam saying, I got it from him, who 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 got it from him, right? That's more authoritative. It's ridiculous. But there you go, Rabbi Spero. But it's there's a bias in academia against anything Jewish. That's a fact. So I think you're saying that's number one is true, that there's a bias in like the great I actually quoted this. Where did I quote this? Oh, also in my my eulogy for Mendes Zatzal. This is Mendes' yahrzeit was this week, a second yahrzeit. Menachem Moshe ben Natalia Herzka, and everything that you and I always do, and especially this podcast, are very much an outgrowth of the wonderful things he did. Obviously Torah was heavily supported by him and still is by his family. Partners in Torah was started by him, and really everything that we are came from him. And so in the Hesped, the program that we had this week of Partners in Torah, the topic was finding the divine in everything. And I quoted the famous Hoyle quote of the probability of life starting by pure chance is the same probability of a tornado sweeping through a junkyard and assembling a 747 aircraft. But there's a sof pasuk on that. Right, fully functional aircraft, right? But there's a sof pasuk on that. Hoyle was an atheist. You
know what Hoyle believed? He was crazy a little bit.
Yeah.
Hoyle believed that there was aliens came and set up human life.
Right. Because why? And this is the problem with evolution and the Big Bang and all these things. Why? Because it's easier to believe that than say there's Rabbanu Shalom. Because if I say aliens came and did it, I can still do whatever I want and act, philander and eat whatever I do whatever I want. But if there's Rabbanu Shalom, I can't do whatever I want. Right, that becomes a problem. So I think that's number one. Number one is that there's while the theories and the science and there might be a lot of legitimacy to it, it's a community where there's a tremendous bias against the idea of Elokus in the world. That's number one. But number two, and this is why I know David Gottlieb himself is not a very big fan of the work of Gerald Schroeder. Gerald Schroeder is the author of Genesis and the Big Bang. I happen to like it.
I read it.
Yeah, I find it very interesting, very fascinating, very compelling. But the reason against, or I should say the reason against, the reason that, let's say, David Gottlieb, who's the ultimate rationalist, right? Everything that he's a logicist. His issue is that as Jews and as Torah Jews, we should never we should never lock ourselves in with any scientific theory.
The opinion, 100%.
Because the theories of the Torah the positions of the Torah are eternal. They're eternal from Maimon Har Sinai until Eliyahu Navi. Then now when Eliyahu Navi gets here, there might be granted, there might be some corrections, but we're not wrong because we're following the system of Moshe Rabbeinu. Like the famous Gemara of Rabbi Eliezer and the Chacham of the time, right? We're following a system, so we're fine. And it could be there's going to be a correction at the time of the Navi, and that's fine. But it's an eternal system. Whereas science,
you'll be careful. A doctor told me once when they had a study 20 years ago, they were pushing the fact that bris milah was a good thing every 25 years ago.
Yeah, they changed that every few decades. Yeah, right.
He told me that he said, I'm not so ball from it. He said, and we shouldn't get too excited by it.
Not at all.
10 years, they're going to say circumcision's bad for you.
And that's what they're doing now, right? That's what they're doing now.
Right, which is yeah, we always have to be careful.
Exactly, and that I think that's the number two when it comes to science. These another perfect example, and you referenced it before, and to quote again my dear friend and Chavrusa, Rabbi Davidovich, is that I said in the summer of 2015. Is that for me coming from Atlanta?
It's just in general to appreciate Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Okay, got it. One day we'll have to go through the Tuvia Geffen Tshuva, the Coca-Cola Tshuva, just for you. I'm sure that's your favorite Tshuva and all Shas and Tshuvas. The Tshuvas of Rashba and that whole Tshuva. I'm sure that's your favorite. Do you have a copy of it? The actual Tshuva, or you just heard it referenced?
It's on Hebrew books. I've actually gone through it.
I got it actually from the Sefer, because he had a Tuvia Geffen, Zichron Levracha, had a nephew in Ner Yisrael who had the actual Sefer. It's called Karnei Hod, I think was the name of the Sefer. And I actually have one to the Geffen's for him here also. Not that one, but here somewhere.
He was a Rav in Atlanta.
Rav in Atlanta, yeah. Now he was one of the Rabbanim Atlanta, predated Rabbi Feldman. Was there at the same time as Harry Epstein, who we talked about before. And unfortunately, that shul did not remain frum after he retired or left or whatever it was. But be it as it may, that gosh, you threw me off the top of your Coca-Cola. See, you short on land to play Coca-Cola and forget it. I'm off and running. So we have to be very careful to attach ourselves to Knight Rider. Love it. We have to be very careful to attach ourselves to theories outside of Torah theories, outside Torah positions, because Torah is eternal and these theories are not. So Rabbi Davidovich, that's what I was saying. So I said in the summer 2015 that any Jew in America, or any Torah Jew, at least in America, who is not, at least his wheels or her wheels are not turning about how they're going to get out of America and go to Eretz Yisrael, was not a thinking Jew. Because in the summer 2015, you had three things happen that I think sent a very loud message for Jewry, or really Torah Jewry, or all of Jewry, however you want to look at that. You had the Iran deal. Right, when Obama put forth the Iran deal and they couldn't veto it, and that whole thing, which again, Baruch Hashem, the Iran deal is now all of shalom, thanks to our present president, the Iran deal. You had a situation in the UN where the U.S. abstained from something in reference to pre-67 borders, quote unquote, and that whole thing, which while America had abstained in the past in some of these anti-Israel resolutions, never won with a statement like that. And number three was that's when the Supreme Court allowed same-sex marriages, all in the same summer. Right, all those things happened in the same summer. So I said that if a Jew wasn't at that point thinking about that this country's not for me anymore, then they just weren't thinking. Now, Rabbi Davidovich made the point, because Rabbi Davidovich and I were heading to a conference together, this young rabbis conference that we participate in, where the mashpim of the conference are Rabbi Lapiansky and Rabbi Hauer and Yitzchak Adlerstein. And we were, and Jonathan Rosenblum was there that year also, Jonathan Rosenblum. So he was saying how, just think of a situation, where this is just so unbelievable that you have a topic that 40 years ago was on the DSM-4 as a psychological disorder. And today it's a mitzvah to say sheyesh bo kares if you don't accept it as normal. He said, that kind of shift in the world, in America, it's unbelievable. And I remember at the time,
I don't know if it's the din of America. It's the din of the entire world.
It's the world. No, the world. Right? It's not just America. Well, that's why. Yeah, that's why. So someone would say back to you, said, "What do you mean? Israel is? These issues are in Israel too." I said, "Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. These issues are in Israel and affect Israel quite possibly more than they affect us here. But if this is what's going down in the world, I want to be in Eretz Yisrael. I don't want to be in America." That's number one. Number two, in Eretz Yisrael, you can really be in a community where you can fortify yourself from non-Torah ideas in a. Okay, to a certain extent. I'm not saying I'm not.
It had its own very, very deep complexity.
100,000%. I've said this a million. There's a million and one reasons why I'm still here in Chutzpah, not the least of which is I still have to educate my children, which there's no way I could see doing that in Eretz Yisrael. There are complexities there, but bottom line is when Mashiach comes and you have a choice of 5 minutes before Mashiach gets here, you can be in Eretz Yisrael, or you can be in Chutzpah, where you're going to be. Or I should say 5 minutes before Gog Magog breaks out, you can be in Chutzpah, so you can be in Eretz Yisrael, where you want to be.
Well, I agree with you, especially because of the fact that I don't even know. It's something my kids put on the computer, but whatever yes, I mean the measures. There's one of the sheets that says that when Mashiach comes, when I was a kid, Olamenu had a story about Mashiach coming, and in this Olamenu story, they wrote all the shuls are going to have like wings and fly to Eretz Yisrael. Could be, could not be, no one knows. But there is a sheet that it says that it could take years to get to Eretz Yisrael.
Right.
Those who are in Eretz Yisrael will be there. So I don't want to wait years. So I mean, when Mashiach comes, I want to be where the action is. So I don't want to be
and this is the whole concept of Kavura in Eretz Yisrael. Because the same thing. The Medrash says that when it comes time for Tchias HaMesim, which again is after Yemos HaMashiach, just to clarify, I just was clarifying this with someone in a class recently. I think it's on YouTube. There's time periods that Yemos HaMashiach is not the end of the story, right? That's not Olam Haba.
It's not 100% clear.
Right, that's true. I mean, I'm actually preparing a class now. Rabbi Spero, I think you should probably participate in it. It's going to be called. You're a heretic if. You might be a heretic if.
I saw that ad. I saw the email.
Yeah. So it's loosely based on Jeff Foxworthy's You're a Redneck If, which I know you're a big fan of that series. And I actually wanted to use one of his. Yeah, well, I'm a redneck. I'm from Atlanta, that's for sure. I actually wanted to use one of his book covers as the poster, but my wife said I couldn't, so whatever. So it's You're a Heretic If. Now I don't know if you figured out from my quirky title what the class is actually going to be on. Were you able to figure it out?
No, what's it going to?
Hakdama Techelek. The Rambam's on Pirush Mishnah is Hakdama Techelek and the Yud Gimel Ikrim actually essentially we call him Yud Gimel Ikrim. Rambam doesn't call him Yud Gimel Ikrim. Right? You know what Rambam calls them?
You said they had das.
Right. Yod Gimel Yosodos, he calls them. Right. So because I'm chazering over the Rambam as a starting point to make sure I go through the whole thing and it's fresh in my mind before I dive too deep into giving the class. But there he talks about a lot of this. Exactly what you're saying. It's when it comes to Yemos HaMashiach, it's very unclear. But it seems like I shouldn't say the predominant opinion. What I often teach and what I understand is that the Yemos HaMashiach is one step, Messianic era is one step, and the final step is Olam Haba, Tchias HaMesim. It seems that's I don't want to say the predominant opinion.
I think it started to be called the Ikrim, and the Sefer Ikrim, that's called the Sefer, the Book of Principles. So he writes in the beginning, gives a whole akdama, or maybe except in the first parak, he writes about all the different Ikrim, the 24 Ikrim, 13 Ikrim, he holds there's 3 Ikrim. So that's why I think it got the name. And then the person, one of the Rishonim, I can't remember what his name was, what we say after those who say it after davening, Yud Gimel Ikrim, the Rambam didn't write those.
Right. In fact, sorry to interrupt you, but one of the things that I'm utilizing is Rav Weinberg Zassal, my Rosh Hashiva, was he gave a number of, over the course of his career, he gave a number of series on Yud Gimel Ikrim. And actually happened because the Ner Yisrael a number of years ago they did convert the whole tape library over to MP3, and they have a couple of the different series that he gave over the years in the Yud Gimel Ikrim. But one thing he was always adamant about, and he would actually show where the Ani Mamims were wrong, but he would say not only was this not the Rambam, but there were mistakes, and it was that Ani Mamims got it a little wrong as far as
really
encapsulate. Yeah, I'm gonna touch on it in my series. Yeah.
It was written by a Rishon.
But he is of the opinion that there are certain. This is Rav Weinberg's take on the Rambam, and he knew the Rambam better than I'll ever know the Rambam, for sure. His take was that there were certain places in the Ani Ma'amins that we say where it did not encapsulate the Rambam properly. I'll point them out too when as a class develops, and I'm working on it. I'm still working on the first. It's gonna be probably about. Probably I'll do it over the course of 13, 14 weeks, do an introduction on and then.
My Spero is called Raya Muna.
Mm-hmm.
It's his shirim, all his series of shirim he gave years ago. And Yud Gimel Ikrim, which is it's very good.
It's a safer or it's a?
It's a safer. They just put it out in English.
Oh, wow. I gotta get that.
His son-in-law's last name is Feldman, who's American. So he translated Ramesh's Sefer.
So it's called, what's the Sefer called? Ro Muna?
That's what it's called in Lashon HaKodesh. In English, it's called, I don't remember what it's called in English.
I'll track it down. I mean, it's whatever. I'll see which one I can get quicker in Cleveland. And that's what, in Cleveland, at a certain point, it depends on which one can get quicker. Hebrew.
I saw it like in the TED advertised.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. I mean, I've been working through, just first of all, just going through the Rambam itself is huge. Interestingly
Very
enough,
cool.
and this might be a project, and that no one should steal this. By the way, none of our listeners should steal this idea. But I think when I'm done with the series, one thing I might start working on is there's no good English book on the Yud Gimel Midos. Now, I guess not Moshe Spero, so maybe that's not what that'll be.
Ikrim, you mean?
Yud Gimel Ikrim. I'm sorry, Yud Gimel Ikrim. Right? Yud Gimel Yisodos, as the Rambam calls them. That at least I was looking around. There's not like one good English Art Scroll Feldheim book on the Yud Gimel Ikrim.
Look on Google. Type in,
look at this.
Moshe Shapiro 13, Rambam 13. One in Hebrew, like I said, that came out like 4 years ago. Yeah. And then his son-in-law published it in English. His son-in-law is now putting out his Torah in English, but his son-in-law also put out on the Maharal's perspective of the Avos. The son-in-law, it's an original sefer, but it's based on a lot of Torahs from Rabbi Shapiro.
That is very, very valuable. I probably, like you, if there's a choice between a sefer and its original or getting in English, I usually prefer to get in the original in Hebrew. But Moshe in English is very interesting because I know for myself, I did have the schools of hearing shiurim from him in Eretz Yisrael, and the line that I always say about Moshe Shapiro Zatzal is that if you think he's repeating himself, you're not understanding the shiur, right? So while his Hebrew was not a complicated Hebrew, it was there was I always felt like I definitely often walked away thinking that he said things multiple times and missing the nuance of whatever he was saying different. And even beyond that, I have found, I have a bunch of them. Tongue twister. Mamakim. I have to say like a Sephardi to get it out right. I can't say like an Ashkenazi. Mamakim. There we go. Mamakims. I have the Mamakim set on Chumash, and I have a bunch of the Afike Mayim. And I, in general, have found, I not to put down Chas v'Shalom the Mechabrim of those works, but I have found them. I don't want to say not done well, but I felt they're hard to grab onto.
I agree with you. It's very hard to get. In my opinion, there's a person named Daniel Barron. Mm-hmm. Who it's a whole mahalach. I think you only can get onto his email list. You have to be recommended by Talmud of Rameshes. I have a friend who got me onto the email list. They're very secretive and like when you get the email, I get it every week from Daniel. I still get it because he's doing the older shiurim now. His name is Daniel Barron, very close Talmud of Rameshes, and it says on the email every week you are forbidden to forward this email. You are forbidden to print out this email and leave it at shul. You print it out for yourself.
Right.
And in my opinion, Daniel Barron is the best writer. He's the best. He has the best kayach to write over Moshe Shurim. I agree. So I don't want to. There's a bunch of people who do it. I don't want to say names.
Yeah. Again, I'm not. I don't want to. But I just might take the ones that I've bought. And I probably 10 of the different Sfarim. I've just had a hard time.
People who write over Moshe Shurim.
Interesting. Daniel Barron. So I'll have to see if I'll maybe. I'll have to ask someone to recommend me. But
I've missed major points in this year.
Yeah, again, I'm not saying. Well, look, I would like. I'll say this is what I would. Give me down the cup school. Some of these people, these wonderful people. They're wonderful people. Wonderful.
100% down the cup school.
Right. No. But what I would take it as the difference between a Michta Milio and a Sifsei Chaim. So the Torah of Chaim Friedlander he's the Talmud Muvak of Dessler, right? He very much you learn Sifsei Chaim and you learn Michta Milio, and it's the same Torah. I don't want to say it's the same, but it's the same, right? One of the big differences is when the Michta Milio is written by the Sifsei Chaim, right? Chaim Friedlander wrote most of the Michta Milio. It was written by him and Ari Carmel, I think was the other one. Yeah, so most of the Michta Milio that we have was actually written by Rav Chaim Friedlander, whereas
I don't think he wrote some, and some are his notes, but some are things written by Rav Dessler directly.
Right. I mean, I'm saying that the ones that are shmooze, right? There's certain things that were direct writings, right? Exactly. There's different encapsulations over there. So, but when the Sifsei Chaim is the same thing, by the way, because Sifsei Chaim is mostly his writings, but also some of it's his children who Exactly. So be it as it may, one of the big differences is the Michta Milio is much more bekitzer than the Sifsei Chaim. So like the same idea in the Michtav Eliyahu will be, let's say, 1 page, and will be about 10 pages in the Sifsei Chaim, right? Because whether it was a conscious or subconscious decision or whatever it was, and the Sifsei Chaim, they decided to really speak things out more. So for me, I really became a big Sifsei Chaim, fan, for lack of a better word, when I was in yeshiva, for that reason. That with Rav Dessler, I always felt like I was missing things, and with Sifsei Chaim, I didn't have that same feeling, so to speak. So, and by the way, Rav Nachum Lansky says the same thing. Rav Nachum Lansky would tell Bachram that when they wanted to start learning in Yanei Machshava, they should start with Sifsei Chaim. For that reason, because the Sifsei Chaim does a wonderful job of really speaking out these inyanim in a clear way. So I know it's probably similar over here with Rav Moshe, as the different approaches of different people trying to put it out. So okay, Rabbi Spero, I don't have a clock on. Are we? I don't know. We're at time, not at time. It feels like we're just about at time.
Now's perfect time.
Okay, so we want to just thank you all for participating. Thank you all for watching. Please share this with the whole world. Let them know we are putting on the best podcast ever. And
in Pakistan?
We are number 1 on the charts in Pakistan. By the way, Chartable put out their top 200 this week, and 3 of the top 200 podcasts, Jewish podcasts, and 3 of the Rabbis podcast. I'm sorry, can't get my words out. 3 of the Jewcast podcasts are on there. The Rabbis Podcast is on there. The Navi Podcast is on there, and Today in Jewish History is on there. We're on the Jewish top 200. You might say, okay, 200. Like, how many Jewish podcasts are there? Chartable reviews 2,000 Jewish podcasts. So that means there's probably more than 2,000.
What number are we? What number are they?
So it fluctuates a lot. We're all within that top 200. I'll send you the thing. We're all 3 out of 4 of our podcasts made in the top 200. So hey,
can you get me the address of the people above us, and I'll do a run by fruiting to their house to throw them off their game, and we can move up higher.
Definitely will do. I think that's important. So, okay, so please continue to share this with the world so we can, that together with Rabbi Spero's Run by Fruiting, we can be sure to get to the top of the list and have a wonderful Shabbos and a big old fat welcome to the guest.
Welcome to the guest.